If you'd like to, for the sake of the media opportunity here, you can introduce yourself and then talk about what you're here for.
Okay, I'm Karen Rao. I'm the Executive Director of the Lebanon County Housing and Redevelopment Authorities. I'm here to talk to you about the DiMatteo Plaza apartments that we will be renovating it's in Cleona. I believe we came to you with this before. That's how we got a $700,000 home grant that we were going to use for this project. At that time, the budget for this renovation was estimated at almost $1.7 million. That was back in 2021 time period when we had applied for that grant. Since that time, the cost of the project has increased significantly. It is now at $2.5 million. Most of that is due just to the time that it has taken to get to where we are. COVID, the cost of supplies and materials. The scope of the project has not changed. We have not changed anything about the project in and of itself. The way that we were planning to pay for this was with the home grant, and then the Palmyra Interfaith Manor building was also being renovated. And we were using some of the equity from that to pay for that renovation at PIM, and then we were supposed to have enough left over to pay for this renovation as well. Due to some costs that we incurred at the PIM building, that also ate into that profit as well. We ran into various plumbing and electrical issues. We had to level the existing concrete floors to allow for installation of showers. They're all walk-in showers at PIM now. And we had some asbestos tile mastic that we encountered underneath the VCT flooring. And then finally, we ended up, in our initial budget, did not include kitchen cabinets, but once we got into that project, we realized that the kitchens were just found to be in poor condition and they required replacement. So all of that ate into the budget. We are now at a place where we are about $1.2 million short to do the renovation at DiMatteo Plaza because of the increased construction costs to do DiMatteo and the decreased that amount that we have from the original PIM budget and that loan to work on it. We still have the grant that we obviously do not want to lose. And what's
the total grant again?
Sorry, the total home grant is $680,000. 10% of that will be used for grant admin, which is $68,000. So we have $612,000 to use from the grant. And we have about, and these numbers, not the grant, but these other numbers fluctuate a little bit. We have about $590,000 left from the PIM loan. Which actually, according to this, leaves us at about 1.3 million, but we think that we were able to shave some of that off, so we think we're around 1.2 million short.
What was the I was writing down.
Yeah, sorry, yes, the
before
original.
Before you said the 2.5 million for DiMatteo Plaza, what was the original?
1.7.
Ah.
Yeah.
Karen, whenever you get a chance, or can you remind me of what the DiMatteo, what that project encompassed? I know it was 6 apartments.
Yes. It is 6 one-bedroom apartments on the first floor. And in the basement, it'll be a satellite location for the caring cupboard. And in the back, we will also be putting an elevator on there so that the public is able to access that caring cupboard, and also they can access the first floor because right now there's steps on both the front and the back of the building, and there's not enough space to put a ramp on. The top floor is administrative offices for Brick Property Services. What I would like to ask or propose is a $500,000 loan from the Act 137 fund. And the way that we would repay that is that all of the units at Palmyra Interfaith Manor, as of the end of this month, will be completely renovated. And with those completely renovated and occupied, Palmyra Interfaith Manor will generate between $150,000 to $180,000 profit every year, even with paying their debt service. So we would take $100,000 out of that annually to pay back this loan over a 5-year period. I know if you received the Affordable Housing Fund internal report that we use, I know that your available fund balance that we're showing as of 12/31/22 is only $915,000. So $500,000 of that is quite a lot, and I understand that. I just wanted to point out 2 things. This fund typically earns about $200,000 a year based on, deeds recorded and everything that goes through. And at the bottom, if you see under loans receivable, Mifflin Mills owes the fund $637,500, and that goes up a little bit because it's accruing interest every year. Those townhomes are supposed to be sold back to the people who live there. The 15-year period that they will of their eligibility is up in December of 2024, which is
hard to believe.
I know, right? The 15 years just flew by. So starting in 2025, we will start selling those townhomes back to the renters. And as we do that during 2025, we will be able to pay this amount back to the fund. So I was hoping that between those two, and making a $100,000 payment back annually, which we would do starting next year, 2024 through 2028, that would get, the fund back to where you would feel comfortable with it being. You have in the cash account, again, $1.6 million. We don't use all of the money that's a deferred commitment at one time. But again, you only have at the end of December, the $915,000 available. We would use everything, the grant first, the money that we have from the PIM loan first. We would use this money, towards the end, when we need to finish funding.
I have a couple questions, but if someone else would.
I have a couple also, but I can wait.
Could I first just walk through the numbers and the scope again?
Okay.
So do you mind?
No, I don't.
Okay, so originally, $1.7 million was the budget.
Yes.
And the scope of that was 6 one-room apartments, including, I'm assuming, renovation for a caring covered facility.
Yes.
And admin offices. All 3 of those are part of the scope of the 1.7, or?
Not
Okay.
the admin offices.
Not the admin, okay.
The elevator.
The elevator, yes, the elevator in the back.
Okay, good. Glad I'm walking through it again here. All right, but then the apartments, caring covered, and the elevator replacement are all the 1.7. That estimate was developed approximately when?
2021.
In 21.
Okay. And now that, you said 2.5.
Yes.
It's a 30% increase.
At 1.2 short, that's 2.9. What am I missing? 1.7 million plus 2.2 million short.
Sorry, so it's 2.5 million. We have 612,000 from the grant. We have 590,000 of the balance remaining from the PIM loan, which leaves us right now with a $1.3 million deficit. But we believe that
Okay.
we had a meeting yesterday with the with Funk, and we think that we're down to about 1.2.
Okay, so that's how you deduced
Yes.
down
Yes.
the arithmetic.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. The caring, well, let me stop there. All I wanted to do was recap that. You guys have questions on it.
So mine were along the lines of, I often try to apply logic or reasonableness to some of these numbers, and this, at 1.7 to get 6 one-bedrooms out of it seems excessive, and I know the caring cupboard's a good cause and so on, but to add another, 1.2 million or whatever it is to the The number is just incredible to me. That, so I wish we were getting 20 units. I could eat this a lot easier than 6, but that is what it is. Is there ever any talk about, well, we scale the program, don't do the carrying cover, don't do whatever to get it tighter, because you're still going to be short 700,000, right?
We are, and what we're hoping to do is actually go back in and request to use more equity out of the PIN building to cover that. I don't know if that's our next step. We're working on that right now.
Because the only other, the building on 12th Street, what's the future of that?
That used to be the old redevelopment. So we're working with MHIDEI to try to renovate that so that they can use it for transitional housing for their program. But that would be using state funds. They would then pay rent on that, but that would go to the redevelopment authority because they own the building.
So it's not an asset that you would sell to make help with some of these other.
Right, and even if we sold it, we can't use that money for this building because that's crossing. Yes.
And is the building on Mifflin, is it?
Yes, the Mifflin Street building, yes, that's owned by the central office, which is public housing, which is also not
All right.
the nonprofit.
It's, it's hard to, with
I
all the bureaucracy issues that you have to deal with.
agree, and I don't disagree that the $2.5 million is a lot of money. But we did go out for bid back when we put this out, and Funk was the lowest bidder. And it's just because it's 2 years later, all the material costs, the labor costs, and we do have to pay this at the prevailing wage rate because we are using grant funds. So you're paying a very high wage rate for some of these skilled jobs that have to be done, and we cannot get around. As far as the carrying cupboard piece goes, really the only piece that we are responsible for that is getting that elevator installed and getting some walls up. The carrying cupboard is going to supply it with all of its refrigeration, with anything that it needs to become the carrying cupboard. Our part in it is very, very basic.
So how do you get to your administrative offices now?
Steps.
See, because that's a kind of a logical thing to me, that an elevator, if you're just doing it for 6 elevators, you're spending $2.5 million for the elevator to get to the 6 apartments. It's just such a tough.
I agree, but because of the carrying cupboard and because it becomes a public space, then you have to have accessibility for everybody for it, which is why you have to put the elevator on.
It's just a tough thing for somebody that uses their own money most of the time. It's kind of, hard to imagine somebody like an investor saying, hey, I think this looks like a good thing to do. But
I think it's,
now, how much equity do you have? You're thinking of taking 700,000 of the equity. How much, Jeff? 900,000 in equity that you could take, and we give 300, or is it?
I think that's entirely possible. I don't have the answer to that right now because I actually just started working with the bank on that because we needed to come up with a plan B. We need another idea because, again, I don't want to lose the home grant. And if we don't, we could say right now, hey, let's just put this whole project on hold because this is crazy, it's $2.5 million. But if we do that, we lose the grant. 1, I don't like giving money back, but 2, I don't want them to say, well, Lebanon County didn't know how to, use their grant. So I need to find a way to make sure this works. So I don't have an answer to that yet, but yes, if we can find a way to get more equity out of the PIN building, then yeah, potentially we could request a lower amount on the loan.
Okay, that's kind of what I had, but
Okay.
I reserve the right to ask more.
Okay, absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah, I have a series of 5 questions. You answered to one.
Okay,
And that was it bid? And the answer was yes.
yes.
But along those lines, were there other bidders or was there only one bidder?
There were 3. There were 3 bidders.
And were
Funk-
the others far apart or close?
That I do not have the answer to. I would have to pull the bid sheet.
Yeah.
And I could certainly do that.
And the reason I'm asking is, would there be any value, wisdom in rebidding it and seeing if the prices become more competitive?
Okay.
But along those lines, don't you have to? I mean, how do you take a project that was originally bid at 1.7 and say, well, we're gonna change order it or do whatever to
really
make it
begs the question.
2.5, 2 years later?
Because there were no change orders. The scope of the project hasn't changed at all. It's
But-
just the price has changed.
Right, but maybe it
Because
wouldn't
has
change
changed
as
that
much.
Significantly, it probably.
That's a lot.
Be,
Mhm.
yeah.
I mean, bids don't stand forever.
Of course not, no. And typically when we put an RFP out, they have to stand for, whatever, 60 days. Like, we typically say this is how long it has to be good for,
Right.
especially in construction projects.
I don't want to get
But
far
they-
off of Joellen's
right.
questions. I just wanted to interject because she was talking about the bidding. So how much life does that have to it?
Right.
And how much can you change it? I mean, changing it by 30 or 40% is big.
A lot.
Go ahead, Commissioner.
Okay. Then the next question is, have you talked to our state or federal legislators? I'm not sure who funds the home grant. What level does that come from?
The state, that's DCED.
Okay, the federal government also has grants for this sort of thing. I guess we have an office right here in this building now. You could hit them on the way out, see if they have anything that they could help you with. That came to my mind.
Okay.
And then also, Jamie and crew did a swell job. We embarked on this new 911 emergency services center. And knowing that they were predicting increases in prices, we pre-bought everything. I mean, we were getting it, paid for, delivered, whatever. We didn't have prices go up. Now, we changed some things because we added a wall here for security, that sort of thing. But the stuff we ordered with the bid, even though prices went through the roof, did not affect us because we were thinking ahead and purchasing.
We also put it on the bidders.
And
If there
yeah,
were
it was
going to be
part of the
escalation in
bid. Yeah, that
materials,
they had to make sure.
They were eating it.
Yeah.
And they all knew that, so it was a
Yeah.
level field.
So that crossed my mind. And then the final thing, well, no, I kind of scribbled it quick here. I'm going to have to, the home, it had to do with the home grant, but I can't read what I wrote in front of it. But at any rate, the point is, I'm just looking at, if this were my personal place, I'd be looking at all these avenues, and we're, to take our, I mean, I want to help, but it's very high, as was pointed out. The percentage is alarming, and I don't want to set a precedent for others to come in here and say, well, you gave it to your own housing authority, why aren't you doing this for us? I think we have to set an example.
Okay.
And so I know what it was, now I know what I wrote. When does home grant expire? Didn't hear that.
Okay, well, it would be 3 years from when it was given to us, and I'm assuming it was given in 21, so 24, next year.
So it expires in '24.
Right.
Spent by or allocated?
It would have to be obligated.
Obligated
Okay.
by '24. Okay, so we do have a little time to work
Yes,
here.
yes.
All right, well, those are my thoughts and comments. I think we're spending taxpayer money, and we have to be frugal,
Correct.
and we have to make sure every penny counts. I mean, price per unit is a real consideration.
It is.
So, I'm sorry, I went on, but
No,
that was what was on my mind.
I just have one for Jamie.
Okay.
no.
Any other projects that anybody, in the offing that you would be coming from this fund, or?
Not front of mind, not that are, at the door. I mean, they come up fast sometimes.
I'm sorry.
Maybe you know some too.
I think that Dan sent me an email recently about Habitat for Humanity
I was
making.
thinking that when he asked, but I don't have anything.
I have
in
not had
front
a
of us.
chance, I just remember seeing that in my email, and I don't know how much it's for or even what it was about, but I do remember seeing an email about that.
There was an email, they were, at some point, they were seeking a conversation, but there wasn't anything definitive in
Okay.
it, so.
Okay.
And are we collecting, we don't collect any real estate tax on that unit?
On DiMatteo,
Yeah,
we do pay real estate taxes.
you do pay
Yes.
us real estate, okay.
Yes.
Because Habitat for Humanity, the homes are sold and we get real estate tax.
Mm-hmm.
I was thinking for some reason the housing authority was exempt, but they're not.
I think
The
it's payment-
nonprofit owns
The
it.
payment in lieu of taxes?
The housing authority pays payment in lieu of taxes, but this is owned by the nonprofit, so they pay taxes.
Oh, that's confusing, but
I-
I didn't recognize the difference.
I know, it
Is
is
it,
confusing.
People pay rent to live there? So it
They
gener-
will, but
generates a revenue,
They
maybe
would,
we'll
but
have
it's
some
still,
roles.
yeah, we pay real estate taxes. And they would pay real estate taxes once they live there as well. It might be assessed differently, we might ask for a different assessment because it's affordable rental units, so, but not at this point, we're not asking for
Okay.
that different assessment.
Anything else?
I have a quick one. I was gonna ask about the deadline for home too, so I'm glad you answered that. When you're referring to the PIM equity, which
Yes.
Elmira Interfaith Manor, just one, I don't know if you actually spelled out the acronym earlier, maybe you did. When you're referring to equity in PIM, I gather that you're referring to borrowing against that. So
Correct.
it's, when you say we might get more equity out of PIM, you're talking about a larger loan against the equity.
Correct.
So it's a bigger obligation. So you're not really finding money, you're just borrowing more.
Correct.
Okay.
So our original loan was 4.2 million.
Anything else? Do we want to discuss anything beyond this, or do we want to, do we want to think about it and tell
I need-
Jamie where we are, or?
Yeah, and I'd like to hear some answers to some of these questions.
The bidding questions and things like that?
Yeah.
The bidding and.
Yeah, the bidding and whether or not the federal have any money that they could help you with. You know, you already got state, but there's a federal unit too downstairs.
right.
Those kinds of things. I'd like to hear some feedback on that. I don't know how fast you can get those answers, but
Right.
I think that would help me and, you know, make a decision and,
But to summarize what we all covered, just to cover it, make sure I'm correct, that what I'm hearing is, we're not saying, oh yeah, sure, go ahead, and we're not saying, no, absolutely not. What we're
Right.
saying, before we do anything, you need to rebid it, you need to look at other options for funding, like federal sources, what else am I missing?
my list, here I have it somewhere. Yeah, rebid.
Other
was no-
avenues and.
Federal
funding.
federal legislative money.
Questions were of the carry cover, I don't know.
Yeah, are there ways to reduce this project in scope at all? But I'm not sure you can, but one of the things you didn't mention, but I thought I heard before though, in talking to you about this, is the apartments are gonna have handicap accessibility.
They're not ADA compliant, but they are all handicap visitability to the units. So anybody who's coming in and visiting, everything is available to them if they're handicapped.
And the elevator will certainly make it accessible
Of
to many
course.
people.
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
so tight on it for the moment?
Yeah, like Mike is saying, so I think I'm somewhere, certainly want to support.
Yeah.
I'd love to hear if you can squeeze any
Okay.
more equity out of PIM.
Yeah.
You know, that would help me get to a yes faster on a number lower,
Okay.
but, you know, it's just,
Yeah, the bottom line, it's a lot of money for 6 apartments.
yeah.
It is.
Regardless of whose money, it's really taxpayer money.
It-
Yeah, this
It's
is.
a lot of money.
Federal, state.
Yeah, yeah, and you know, this, when you call it affordable housing, it is an amazing thing, because the cost per unit is, you know,
It's
a
around
lot like the
300.
ones we just did with the small homes. You know, whatever, it's 200,000 a unit, and you think of the, you know, so
It's a lot of money.
Yeah.
Agreed.
So if you can do a little more
Yes, I'll
digging
do a
on
little
that
bit
for
more
us.
research on that. Yep,
Okay.
and get that
I
information.
just think
out
we
to you.
have to set a high bar because we don't want to give the wrong impression to
Well,
people.
plus we'd be using half our money.
Right.
And that's the other challenge for
Right.
me, is others that we have to put on hold,
Right.
should they come forward. That's,
Could be giving us more bang for our buck in total number of units.
Right.
You know?
'cause I love adding units, don't get me wrong.
Yeah, I know, we need them, we definitely need them, but sure, it's around $300,000 a unit, it's pretty, and when you take the elevator cost out, it's pretty pricey.
Thank you.
Okay, thank
Sorry,
you.
Karen.